my first great quote on my slide that you can't see here was from George Orwell, who said that each generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it and wiser than the one that comes after it. And I think that's true. You know, there's a real sort of intergenerational issue related to climate change, and very much in terms of how we might address this issue, it's going to come very much from your generation. So my next slide you can't see here says, no man is an island entire of itself. And this was said by John Donne, 1572. And the reason I don't show you this slide is that, I think it's a terrific carbon saving strategy, the reason I don't show you this one is for two reasons. One is no man is an island. I think it's very important if you're working in this area of climate change, which it is a bit confronting, right? If you're working in, you know, global health or any of these very, I guess, idealistic, ambitious areas, you do need to manage your own well-being and your own mental health. Actually, when AYCCC had started, I do a lot of work with Beyond Blue and a lot of mental health work, and I was asked to come and talk to them about sort of staying sane while you're working climate change. And over the years, I've noticed there's a couple of different strategies people have. You see some people who sort of wake up to the climate change issue and then it's a sprint, right? They're going to solve everything by next week. And generally you see them a year or two later and oh, I'm not doing climate change anymore. I've got into some other social justice issue. Because it's not a sprint, it is a bit of a long run, and I would advise you that never to feel like you have to do it all on your own. That, you know, be part of a group like AYCCC, brilliant. And if you feel like it's, you know, becoming too much of your identity, you don't want to become the cause, you know. Stay friends with your other friends who aren't that into it or whatever. You don't want to become totally immersed in the sense of lose track of your identity. Excellent. Now we don't have the slides on here as well. Great. Extra carbon saving. So the second reason why I don't show you the quote, no man is an island, is the Earth literally is more connected than we've ever been in any time in the history. So from a health point of view, one of the issues we're finding with global epidemics and things is that the airline travel between the countries mean that, you know, if there's a flu outbreak or, dengue fever or little mosquitoes stowing away on the planes, you know, the biggest issue at the moment is the thing just spreads out around the world. I've seen this great video which shows all the airline flights during a 24-hour period. And I don't know about you, when I'm on a plane, I sort of think, yeah, I'm just up here, comfy, not many planes around here. If you actually look at the video, you can see it's like little dots of sand, like this, moving to North America in the morning and moving back the other way, like a big organic system. So I think literally the connections, electronically, financially, physically, epidemiologically, in terms of infections, is very real. The next slide is, nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And this was said by Martin Luther King, who lived between 1929 and 1968. And I'm sure Tim Flannery could tell you some more interesting stories about climate skeptics and people that really want to stick their head in the sand. But even Paul Gilding, that talk we had this morning, which I found really inspiring, where he said, you know, humanity's great at just doing nothing, delay, and then the last minute freaking out and solving things, right? And we see that all the time with patients. You know, people come in and you go, you really should stop smoking. You really should stop smoking. You should stop smoking. And then they come in, they hardly get up the stairs. You really should stop smoking. Yeah, I think I'll stop smoking. You know, so we do things at last minute sometimes. Okay. Let's just get specifically down to health, because I don't want to talk for too long, because I know we've got a lot of time for questions and things. One message that I want you to take away from this is that climate change amplifies global health problems, right? So many of you, you're probably a pretty social justice-y sort of through as a guest. Many of you will have heard of the Millennium Development Goals, and you know how we've been trying to reduce maternal mortality and child mortality and reduce poverty and do all these really cool things, improve access to water by 2015. Those Millennium Development Goals run out in 2015, and the point is that the consideration of the new goals is really taking into account that you can't ignore the environment, the basic life support systems, clean air, clean water, fresh food, if you're going to achieve these global health goals. You can't just set up little medical clinics and just keep giving people antibiotics and, oh, this will work. You know, we have to think upstream with all the environmental issues. So there's a lot of talk about some new sustainable development goals. Yeah, I'll just look at the next one. No, you're good. Okay, so one of the things we know is that climate change is very much a social equity issue. And if we get a chance for me to show you a map, you would see that the places that are going to get hit worst by climate change, which you've heard about a bit this morning, to our north, up in Southeast Asia and also Sub-Saharan Africa, some of these places are going to get hit the most hard by climate change. So it's very much a social equity issue. A couple of quick points about how climate change affects health. Short version, it can affect it directly, right? If you're the guy or the lady stuck in front of a hurricane or in a flood or in a fire, you might get injured. Direct climate change type effect. But often we don't talk about, but it's very important, the indirect effects, right? Displacement of communities, loss of agriculture, loss of jobs, mental health problems. So all those flow-on effects, conflicts between people, those can affect health probably at least as strongly. So, my grandfather used to say, as did Ralph Waldo Emerson, nothing great was achieved without enthusiasm. And there was certainly a lot of enthusiasm coming from the room today. And, now we're going to no slides. Good. That's okay, I've got a backup plan. Can you up the back, can you see that one? We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to create them, said by no one other than Albert Einstein. Okay? We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to when we created them. And I thought Paul Gilding did a great job explaining that today. That linear thinking, you know, people, I think you're all at that talk this morning, everyone attributes their own little bit of action to solving the climate problem, but actually it's the whole system. And so thinking in terms of systems, I think, is really important. So everything that you do as young people, whether you hassle your parents or, you know, get into jobs that will do something or write to your local politician or whatever you do, every little bit is fantastic and it all helps. A couple more concepts, Amanda, and then I'll move on. You okay for time? There's a concept in medicine that I'll quickly tell you about called non-communicable diseases. Okay? So, you've probably heard, for many years we've been worried about catchy diseases, communicable diseases like malaria, TB, chronic diarrhoea that kills lots of kids, terrible. But actually what they're really worried about, all the local health and public health thinkers, is what they call NCDs, non-communicable diseases, which is getting fat, getting obesity, getting joint troubles, diabetes. So all the problems from living in an environment where we've got easy access to high energy foods, poor and access to lots of ways that we don't have to exert any energy, get on, you know, everything gets done electronically. Why am I telling you about that? Because there's a tremendous co-benefit story about things we can do that are going to help reduce these NCDs. I love the way they call it NCD, like KFC. It's like they've sort of gone with the acronym. Non-communicable diseases. We've got lots of things that will help the environment and also help people get fit. Like what? Like setting up decent public transport systems, like setting up riding paths, thinking about how we design cities. We've got more people living in cities than we've ever had in human history. So if we do that, it's good for the environment and it's good for our health as well. So I would encourage you, whatever field you end up working in, if it's not health specifically, then to at least have that health mindset of will this be good for people. There's a few other health examples, but I'm just mindful of time. I'll mention just quickly that the population issue is something that we can't ignore, because however many people times consumption we have is going to put more pressure on Earth. And I think the health community and the broader community's got a great obligation to help those poorer countries to provide choices for women, to reduce infant mortality rates so people don't go and have 15 children because they know their kids are going to be all right, and to provide access to contraception. So I think I might call it quits there, Amanda. My final quote is, "A scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponents eventually die and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it." That's Planck. I think some of the old people just have to die.